Tonight, if you hear a sound outside your room, you still have You can turn on the light, check your phone, look through the window, lock the door again, even though it is already locked, because humans apparently need emotional confirmation from doors. Maybe there is a street light outside. Maybe cars are passing. Maybe someone is awake in the next apartment. Maybe there is a camera in the hallway, a security guard downstairs, a neighbor nearby, or at least enough concrete between you and whatever made that sound. And still, for 1 second, your body reacts before your brain does. Your chest tightens. You stop moving. You listen, because some ancient part of you does not care that you live in a modern building. It heard something in the dark, and it wants to know is something there? Now, take away the light. Take away the door. Take away the phone. Take away the window. Take away the police, the hospital, the street, the city, the lock, the wall, and the neighbor upstairs dragging furniture at 2 a.m. like he is assembling a shrine to bad sleep. Keep only the sound. A branch cracks outside the fire. The night is huge. The trees are black. The fire is getting low. Someone in the group died yesterday. And nobody wants to say their name out loud. So, did ancient humans fear ghosts? Probably yes. But not ghosts like pale figures floating through haunted houses. Ancient ghosts did not need mirrors, staircases, old portraits, or a hallway with dramatic plumbing. Their ghosts waited somewhere older. At the edge of firelight, in dreams. Near the place where a body had been left. In a voice that sounded almost familiar. In a dark tree line, where something moved, stopped, and moved again. To understand ancient ghost fear, we should not begin with castle. We should begin with a small fire under a black sky. Modern darkness is usually fake darkness. There is always some tiny light, a charger blinking, a street lamp leaking through the curtain, a car passing outside, a refrigerator glowing when you open it at midnight like a tiny cold temple of bad decisions. Even when your room is dark, the world around it is not truly gone. But ancient darkness was different. When the fire dropped, the world did not become dim. It disappeared. The ground vanished. The trees became one black wall. Face, 3 steps away, became only a shape. And anything beyond the firelight could be standing there without being seen. That matters, because ancient humans were not afraid of darkness because they were childish. They were afraid because darkness had teeth. A sound at night could be wind, could be a branch, it could be a hyena, a big cat, a bear, a snake under the sleeping hut, a stranger from another group, a sick person, a child moving too far from camp, or nothing. The problem was simple. They had to decide before they could see. And in that world, the calm answer was not always the smart answer. If you mistake wind for danger, you lose sleep. If you mistake danger for wind, you may not wake up. That is the kind of brain ancient humans carry. Not a stupid brain, a suspicious brain. A survival brain. A brain that heard one crack in the bushes and said, something is there, before logic had time to put on shoes. We still have that brain. That is why your body freezes when the hallway creaks at night, even though you know it is probably old wood. Your modern brain says, relax. Your ancient brain says, nice speech. Check the hallway. Now imagine that same reaction in the Paleolithic world. No light switch, no locked door. No emergency, no explanation waiting on Google. Only fire, only people, only the dark. And sometimes, only the memory of someone who was sitting beside that fire yesterday and is not sitting there now. This is where ghosts begin to make sense. Not as entertainment, not as decoration, not as superstition. For people with too much free time. As a survival problem, a person dies. The body stops moving, but the relationship does not stop. The group still remembers the voice, the laugh, the anger, the warning, the sleeping place, the tool they always carried, the path where they used to walk. Death removes the body, but it does not erase the pattern. And the human brain is very bad at instantly deleting patterns. If someone you love dies, you may still expect to hear them. You may still turn your head when someone moves, like you may still dream of them. You may still feel, for 1 second, that they are about to enter the room. Now, take that feeling out of a modern apartment. Put it beside a fire in a world with no neuroscience, no grief therapy, no hospital paperwork, and no clean explanation for what a dream is. Someone dies in the afternoon. That night, their mate wakes before dawn. Fire is almost out. Wind moves through the trees. And in the dream they just had, the dead person was standing outside the camp. Not screaming, not floating, just standing, looking in. Was it only memory? Maybe. But only memory is a modern answer. For ancient humans, the feeling may have been much harder to dismiss. The dead body was still part of the world, but the person had just appeared in sleep. They had moved, they had looked, they had maybe spoken. And when the dreamer woke, the fear stayed in the chest. That is one of the strongest roots of ghost fear. Dreams made the dead move again, and dreams do not feel fake while you are inside. Today, if you dream of someone who died, you may wake up sad, shaken, maybe even comforted. Then morning comes. You check your phone, you make coffee, you go to work. The modern world crowds the dream out, but ancient morning was not like that. The same trees were there, the same sleeping place was empty. The same body, maybe covered or buried, still had to be dealt. There was no clean break between dream and world. The dead could return in sleep, and the world outside still looked ready to hide them. Now, this is where we need to be honest. We cannot dig up fear. Archaeologists cannot pull a nightmare out of the ground, brush it clean, and say, here it is, the first ghost. What they can find are bodies, objects, pigments, graves, bones, repeated choices, and the ways people treated the dead. That is not the same as reading their mind. A burial does not prove a ghost belief. Red pigment on a body does not automatically prove an afterlife. A tool placed near a corpse does not tell us exactly what someone believed at 2 a.m. beside the fire. But these traces do show something important. The dead were not always treated like ordinary waste. Some bodies were placed carefully. Some were covered. Some were given objects. Some were marked with pigment. Some places were returned to. That does not prove ghosts, but it does suggest the dead still required action after death. And once the dead still require action, the door opens. Maybe the action was love. Maybe it was grief. Maybe it was hygiene. Maybe it was memory. Maybe it was fear. Most likely, it could be several at once, because a corpse was never just a corpse. It was emotionally precious and biologically dangerous. That is a nasty combination. The person was loved, but the body smelled. The person was remembered, but insects came. The person belonged to the group, but scavengers could smell death better than the group could. Love said, stay close. Survival said, be careful. That tension is old, very old. A dead body could attract animals. It could signal sickness, could contaminate a camp. It could force a group to decide whether to stay, move, bury, cover, carry, or leave. No option was emotionally clean. This was not like calling a funeral. There was no professional adult in a black suit who appeared and handled the terrible part for you. The group had to handle the terrible part themselves. The same hands that touched the living now had to touch the dead. And after that, rules mattered. Who goes near the body? Where is it placed? Can children look? Can people sleep near it? Should the group move camp? Should the name be spoken? Should something be left behind? Should the dead be treated as gone, or as still somehow involved? We do not need to force one answer. The point is that death created a crisis. Ritual may have helped manage that crisis. Not because ancient people were dramatic, because without a script, death can tear a small group apart. One person wants to stay. Another wants to leave before predators come. Someone refuses to touch the body. Someone else cannot let go. Children are watching. Night is coming, and the fire needs fuel. So the group creates action. Dig here, place the body there, cover the face, leave the tool. Do not sleep near that place. Do not go there after dark. Do not call out if you hear something from that direct. First, the ghost was a fear. Then it became a rule. That is the important turn. A ghost is not only something people believe. A ghost can become something people obey. A survival rule like stay near the fire is easy to forget. A rule like the dead call from the trees is harder to ignore. Maybe the dead are not calling. Maybe it is only wind. Maybe it is an animal. Maybe it is a person trying to lure someone away. The rule still works. Do not answer. Do not walk out alone. Do not leave the circle. This is where ghost stories become survival technology. A warning sign before signs existed. Portable danger. Something you can carry inside a child's head. Imagine a child hearing a sound beyond the camp. Not a roar, not a scream. A small sound, almost like a voice. The child starts to move. An adult grabs their arm. Not violently, fast. A protective pullback. The adult does not explain acoustics. They do not say, that may be a predator using environmental noise to draw attention. They say something shorter. Do not answer. That is how rules survive. Short, sharp, memorable. In the ancient world, A story did not need to be scientifically perfect to be useful. It needed to be remembered when people were tired, hungry, grieving, cold, and scared. A boring warning dies fast. A frightening warning walks with the group. This does not mean every ghost story began as a safe, but it means a safety rule could easily grow ghost skin. Do not go near that river. Why? Because a child drowned there. Then, after many retellings, because the child calls from the water. Do not sleep near that cliff. Why? Because a hunter fell there. Then, later, because he is still heard in the stone. Do not enter that hollow after dark. Why? Because animals den. Then, later, because the dead wait there. That may sound like superstition, but look at the job it does. It turns danger into memory. It turns memory into a place. It turns a place into a rule. And the rule keeps people alive. Today, we have signs. Danger, deep water, keep out, do not enter, sharp drop, high voltage. Ancient people had stories. The story was the sign. The ghost was the red warning triangle. Much creepier, yes, but also harder to ignore. This is why haunted places matter. Today, a river bend can look empty if you do not know the story. A cliff is just a cliff. A dark patch of trees is just trees. But for a small ancient group, land was marked by memory. That river is where someone vanished. That cliff is where the hunter fell. That hollow is where wolves were seen. That cave is where people heard something after the burial. No maps. No streetlights, no written warnings, only stories. And the stories had to be strong enough to survive. Over time, a dangerous place becomes more than a place. You do not camp there. You do not joke. You do not let children wander there. You lower your voice when passing. You leave something behind. You hurry before sunset. Was that because the place was haunted, or because the place was dangerous? For ancient people, those answers may not have been separate. Danger and haunting could point to the same place. One is the modern word. One is the old feeling. Modern people still understand this. An empty hospital corridor feels different from an empty supermarket aisle. A road where someone crashed feels different from any other road. A house where someone died can feel heavy, even if you do not believe in ghosts. We tell ourselves we are rational. Then we walk past a cemetery at night and suddenly remember we have somewhere else to be. Now give that feeling to people without streetlights, cars, walls, or a city humming around them. Give it to people who sleep near the ground with the night pressing on every side. Of course, certain places would feel wrong. Of course, some paths would be avoided. Of course, the dead would not feel completely gone. And sometimes, the place itself helped create the feeling. Caves are the easiest example. A cave without modern light is not just dark. It changes the rules. The entrance shrinks behind. The air gets colder. Your footsteps come back wrong. A small sound seems near and far at the same time. Torchlight moves. Stone moves with it. A crack becomes a mouth. A bulge becomes a shoulder. A shadow becomes someone standing where no one stood a second. You do not need to be foolish to feel a presence there. You only need eyes, ears, and a nervous system that wants to survive. Some Ice Age caves were entered deeply, far beyond daylight. People painted animals, left marks, moved through chambers that took effort and risk to reach. We cannot say every cave was about spirits or ghosts, but we can understand why such spaces did not feel ordinary. Sound changed. Light changed. Distance changed. Your own breathing sounded like someone else was with you. If a group already lived with dreams of the dead, dangerous places, animal fear, and memories tied to the land, then a cave could feel like a doorway into something not quite normal. Not because humans were weak-minded. Because the environment was powerful, the dark was doing half the work. Then, there is one more step. The dead do not only frighten, they can also command. A grandmother dies, but her warnings remain. A tracker dies, but his path remains. A mother dies, but her child still listens for her. A hunter dies, but his spear still leans by the fire. The body is gone or buried or covered, but the person keeps shaping behavior. Do not eat that plant, she warned us. Do not cross there. He died there. Do not sleep beyond the fire. The old ones said the night takes people. This is how ancestors become authority. Not always gentle authority. Sometimes protective, sometimes frightening. Often, both. A small group needs memory. It needs children to listen. It needs adults to cooperate around death, instead of panic. It needs dangerous knowledge to survive longer than the person who first learned. The dead can carry that knowledge. A ghost, in this sense, is not just a floating dead person. It is memory with power. It is the voice of someone gone, still shaping what the living do. And if ignoring that voice gets people killed, the voice becomes harder to ignore. So, yes, ancient humans probably feared ghosts. But the word ghost is the tricky. By ghost, we mean a transparent person drifting through a hallway? Probably not. That is a later image. A house image? A city image. A world with walls. Ancient ghosts were not indoor problems. Our ghosts live in houses. Theirs waited outside the fire. They were not always seen. They were felt. In the pause after a branch broke. In the dream of a dead parent. In the place where a body had been left. In the silence after a name was spoken. In the rule that no one cross the river after dark. In the child pulled back from the tree. In the elder saying, very quietly, do not answer that voice. That is the version that makes sense. A ghost was a question with danger. Is that sound an animal? Is that dream a visit? Is that place unsafe? Is the dead person angry? Did we bury them correctly? Should we go back? Should we never go back? These questions matter when your world is small, dark, and full of things that can kill you before sunrise. And this is why ghost fear may be one of the most human fears. It mixes everything we are. Love, memory, pattern detect, survival, fear of darkness, fear of death, fear of being watched, fear of losing someone and still feeling them nearby. Even now, we are not free of it. We live with elevators, passwords, LED lights, traffic noise, apartment doors, and phones that can call help in seconds. And still, if something knocks once in the dark, we stop. We listen. We wait for it to happen again. Because somewhere inside us, the ancient fire is still burning. Small, unreliable, surrounded by night. Picture that fire one last. A small group sits close together. Children are quiet. The adults are pretending to be calmer than they are. Beyond the light, the trees stand black and still. Somewhere nearby, someone who mattered is dead. The group has done what it can. Covered the body, moved the camp, left a tool, said words, avoided a name. But night does not care that humans need closure. Night comes anyway. The fire bends, a branch cracks. Every face turns. Nobody knows if it is wind. Nobody knows if it is an animal. Nobody knows if grief is playing tricks. Nobody knows if the dead are gone. And in that moment, the safest brain is not the one that laughs. It is the one that whispers, stay near the other. Do not answer. Do not go out there. Maybe ancient humans feared ghosts because they were afraid of the dark, but that does not make them foolish. The dark was dangerous. Maybe they feared ghosts because they dreamed of the dead. That does not make them foolish either. Love does not end cleanly just because breathing stops. Maybe they feared ghosts because a corpse was both a person and a warning. Because a place where someone died was never just a place again. Because stories kept children alive. Because memory needed a voice. Because danger is easier to respect when it has a face. Their ghosts were not special effects. They were survival alarms. They were grief with teeth. They were memory standing at the edge of firelight. And sometimes, in a world that dark, the difference between a ghost and a warning may not have mattered. If it kept you alive until morning, you listen.